When most people imagine Nazi executions during World War II, they picture firing squad or the gas chambers of Auschwitz. But hidden behind prison walls throughout Germany and Austria, another execution device was at work. One that was swift, clinical, and terrifying in its silence. The Fallbeil, the falling axe, the German version of the guillotine. Originally adopted in the 19th century, the Fallbeil was not unique to the Nazis. But under Adolf Hitler's regime, this machine became a central tool of state-sponsored terror. In the hands of the Third Reich, the Fallbeil wasn't merely a means of execution. It was a chilling symbol of totalitarian control, used to eliminate dissent and instill fear in the German population. And while it may appear efficient on the surface, the truth is it was far more gruesome and horrifying than most would assume. To support our channel, please click subscribe. The Fallbeil, literally meaning falling axe, was a German adaptation of the French guillotine, which had become famous during the French Revolution for its supposed humane speed. The German version was heavier and more industrial looking, typically constructed from metal and steel rather than wood. By the late 19th century, the Fallbeil had become the standard method of execution in many parts of the German Empire. It was seen as cleaner and more modern than hanging. Its use was revived under the Weimar Republic, but vastly expanded under the Nazis, who saw it as an opportunity to marry efficiency with the theatrical demonstration of absolute authority. Adolf Hitler did have a deep interest in the death penalty. He believed in using fear and punishment as a tool of social control. Under his rule, the number of capital offences exploded. By 1944, there were more than 40 different crimes punishable by death, ranging from treason and sabotage to even listening to foreign radio broadcasts or simply telling a joke about the Führer. In the early years of the Nazi regime, executions were carried out by firing squads. But Hitler wanted something more domestic, less military. The Fallbeil, well, that was perfect for him. It allowed executions to be conducted behind prison walls, away from public view, but still under absolute control. In 1936, Hitler appointed Dr. Otto Georg Ferrach as Minister of Justice, and under Ferrach's brutal supervision, the use of the Fallbeil surged. Execution facilities were installed in 11 regional prisons, including Berlin's Plötzensee prison, Munich's Stadelheim, and Dresden. Each prison had its own executioner, or Scharfrichter, who often earned lucrative salaries and bonuses for every beheading or execution that they performed. Now, the Fallbeil was deceptively simple. It stood around 14 feet high. Its blade was hoisted by a crank and then released to fall with gravity, guided by steel rails. The blade was often heavier than the French model, and it fell faster, ensuring decapitation in a fraction of a second. A bench would slide the condemned forward in place, where the neck was positioned in a metal collar before the blade was then dropped. Some executioners even just used their assistants to hold them in place. The condemned were sometimes strapped down and gagged, especially if they were known to shout anti-Nazi slogans. Often 3 to 5 people were executed in a single session, one after the other, sometimes in less than under 5 minutes. But this mechanical efficiency hides the emotional and psychological brutality involved. Unlike the French Revolution's public guillotine, the Nazi Fallbeil was used in secret, making it more terrifying to the general population. Families were not notified until after the execution, and the bodies were often buried in mass graves or cremated without any ceremony at all. The most infamous site of Fallbeil executions was Plötzensee prison in Berlin. Between 1933 and 1945, around 2,891 people were executed there, many of them political prisoners, resistance fighters, or even conscientious objectors who did not want to fight. Amongst the most well-known victims was Sophie Scholl, a member of the student-led White Rose resistance group. Along with her brother Hans and fellow member Christoph Probst, she was arrested for distributing anti-Nazi leaflets. They were executed by Fallbeil at Munich Stahlheim on February 22, 1943, barely 4 days after their arrest. Witnesses reported that Sophie's last words were, and I quote, "Such a fine sunny day, and I have to go. But what does my death matter, if thousands of people are awakened and stirred to action?" The man who carried out that execution was the most notorious Nazi executioner, Johann Reichardt, who carried out over 3,000 executions using Fallbeil. A cold and methodical man, Reichardt was often considered a model of precision. He was known to have said, "It was just a job, just like any other. Someone had to do it." Reichardt was actually paid per head, earning bonuses and even a pension after the war. After the fall of the Third Reich, he was imprisoned, but was later hired by the Allies to execute Nazi war criminals and help in their own execution proceedings. Sometimes he even deployed the same device. The horror of this system wasn't just violence itself, but the cold, bureaucratic nature of it. A court clerk would record the execution, a doctor would confirm death, a prison chaplain might say a final prayer, but the whole process was treated like a factory line of death, with ledgers, receipts, and death notices handled with chilling detachment. The Fallbeil may seem at first glance like a quick and humane method, but the surrounding context, the secrecy, the speed, the mental torment made it arguably more cruel than hanging or shooting. Prisoners often waited for weeks or months in isolation, their cell just steps from the execution chamber. They were frequently awakened in the dead of night, told suddenly that it was a time. The walk from the cell to the Fallbeil, a matter of metres, was described as the longest walk imaginable. Those who resisted were dragged. The sound of the blade falling echoed down the corridors, so other prisoners always knew when someone had died, and they also rang out a bell. Executioners too sometimes cracked under the pressure. One former assistant wrote that the machine was so blood-slick and gruesome by the third or fourth execution that it had to be mopped down between victims. Occasionally the blade would stick or fail to fully sever the head, which was a horrifying spectacle. After the fall of Nazi Germany, the use of the Fallbeil quickly came under scrutiny. West Germany abolished the death penalty in 1949 under a new constitution. East Germany continued to execute some people using a pistol shot to the neck, but the Fallbeil, well, that was never used again. Plötzensee prison now stands as a memorial. The execution chamber remains intact, with a replica Fallbeil, a rust-stained floor, and commemorative plaques listing the names of the victims. It's a haunting place, but a necessary reminder. The Fallbeil was not just a machine. It was a weapon of fear, wielded by a regime that sought to crush every flicker of dissent. And for those who died beneath the blade, often with courage, dignity and defiance, it remained a tragic and powerful symbol of state violence, taken to its darkest extremes. The Fallbeil in Nazi Germany was not just merely a tool of execution, it was a terrifying component of the regime's machinery of repression. Efficient, clinical, and cloaked in secrecy, it enabled the swift removal of political enemies with terrifying regularity. But what made it worse than you'd think wasn't just the blade, it was a soulless bureaucracy, the cold efficiency, and the psychological torment surrounding its use. Thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.